I'm thankful and blessed to be here. Another opportunity to coach young people and kind of use my passion for developing young people through the game of football. The football part comes and we have those goals and stuff set for them, but my passion is kind of developing young people through the things that we do for life so they can be better husbands and fathers and business leaders and community leaders and all the things that go along with life, because life, everybody thinks that 18 is this great, wonderful world, and it is, but there's bumps, right? And so for our thing, I only have one motto. I wear it on my arm as the Any Challenge thing, and so that kind of encompasses all of it, right? Because life is just a challenge, and so you can get lots of things thrown at you. How do you respond to those, whether it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 and whatever, or life in general? That's kind of how we go. So with Coach, I've been in the game. This is my 26th year of being in it. I got started right when I got done playing, so my network is pretty large at this point because of the nature of the way college football works. And I coach with Gus Malzahn at Tulsa. And so that goes all the way back to there and kind of how that started. So that was kind of where we started. And then with Todd Graham and Gus and Mike Norvell's and Matt Wells. And so I've got a lot of friends that have been head guys and coordinators and just kids that I've coached, that have worked with Coach and reached out to him. So Craig was with Vic Soto at USC, so I reached out to him. Keenan Hall knows Brennan Marion, receivers coach at Texas, and was at Pitt. I coached at Tulsa. So you just start using your resources to try to get a contact and kind of build a relationship from that aspect.
To piggyback off of that, Coach Lashley said that Bronco Mendenhall wore him out talking about you and singing your praises. Was it hard to leave Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, it's
relationships there.
Yeah, it's always hard to leave. Coach Mendenhall had stepped down, and we were looking for opportunities. And Virginia hired a new staff across the board, which is what people do. So it's always tough to leave your kids. Hopefully you made an impact. I always want to hopefully leave a place better than when you found it. And the guy before me had done a great job, and we just try to expand on that. Same thing that we'll do here. The previous staff did an unbelievable job, and I knew stepping in that there's not going to be like they didn't win here. They were winning here, right? So now it's our job to try to help expand and grow and have these kids be as successful as possible with hopefully a long-term career at the next level, and that's the key. And in today's day and age, it doesn't matter where you play. I mean, I know they sell all the stuff, this school, that school, but if you can play, you can play, and that's the bottom line.
Billy and White, we've gone through. What are some of the pillars of your program? I know you mentioned Any Challenge, but what are some of the things that you really like to see out of your guys as they go to work in the weight room or on the field or what have you? I mean, how much of a culture setter, in that respect?
Yeah. For me, toughness, gritty, resilient. We're going to throw things at them differently, change things up on them. How do they respond? And it's all a teaching tool, of how we do things. But we're gonna pull from the floor. We're gonna squat a lot, and then we're gonna get into we start with the big rock and we chip it down into the individual. So for us, a strong individual is a strong squad, which that's your side of the ball, and the strong squad hopefully makes a strong team. So even though we're working and doing all these main things, we're as simple as doing like we started doing last week, FMS testing. We're all certified in that, and then just giving the kids, and today's technology is just fantastic. So we do an FMS, we shoot it right to their phones right there. So like I've got Jahari Rogers in there this morning who didn't score very well, which he's a good player, but how much better can we make him if we work on the individual needs of that young person? So the culture part for us, it's not that difficult here because they've had success. Our job is to increase that discipline, structure, and accountability. For me is that. So like when we have a meeting, I put it on the grease board, like for me, that is the meeting. There's not another meeting coming. Now they might get it from Teamworks and all that stuff, but for me, like the meeting is there. So if you can't remember that, then bring your phone and take a picture. So I'm putting a lot of accountability on them, right? And we have a Wednesday, we call it Be a Pro, and we're still trying to get that off the ground a little bit, and it'll become more in depth. But we have yoga, we have FMS, we have pro day training stuff for the guys that want to work L drill, pro agility because they're technical. We have speed school for them. We have massage. We have chiropractors. We have ART come in. We've got all kinds of stuff. And then eventually we'll grow to where we have maybe former players come back like we did before at my other stop of speaking on what it's like to play at the next level, finances, that kind of stuff. Academics get involved, nutrition get involved. So it's kind of like the old school county fairs and job fairs like when we went to school, and they can just kind of pick and choose, right? Because at the end of the day, like I tell the kids, like, and they tell the recruits, like, you're walking into Epcot or Disneyland, there's all these different lands to go to. Our job is to lay out all these different choices for you to have. Your experience can be as great and as wonderful as you want, or it can be just streamlined. It takes really no talent to be average in this world. You just got to get up and put your shoes on. Now, to be great, it takes more than the 8 hours, more than the 20, and more than what the supposedly 40 hours a week that we all supposed to work, right? Nobody works 40 hours because it's just not how it works. That's not how you get ahead in the world. So our job is to hopefully drive that as a staple of their growing up.
Sam Conn from The Athletic. You kind of touched on it a second there. I want to analyze the culture. Obviously, they've been winning. Curious, just in your early impressions, how receptive have these guys been, and what has been your impression of the roster as you coach them?
Yeah, I tell Coach, so I give Coach kind of a daily update every day, just a quick one. I know those head coaches are busy, but just so we're the boots on the ground, right? Like, we literally know everybody, and tomorrow we're starting what we call a tour duty, which is like an old school mat drill. Call it what you want, but it's just we're all going to get together and coach, and it'll be the first time our coaches get to be around all the kids before spring ball. So I feel like that's an important part. The kids have been wonderful, and they've been great. Most kids want structure and discipline, even though they say they don't. They do. We all do, right? I mean, we all do. So that part, they've been really receptive. And for me, it's about building relationships. And like I told them in the team meeting, the relationships come on trust and time. And the faster we can get that trust, the faster we're going to get to where we want to go. You as an individual, you as your side of the ball, and us as a team. So it just came as time. There is no secret sauce to this, really, to be honest with you. And people always think there is. It's some magical thing. You know what it is? It's called loving people and loving kids. And if you can love them, you can train them. If you can't show them, you can't fool kids. They know right through you if you're not passionate about what you do, and if you don't care about them. So for me, that's kind of always been my thing. So if you can love them, then you can coach them, and then you'll get the most out of them. And sometimes it takes sidebar conversations. Sometimes it takes a text message. I mean, my phone's always on, so they're always more than welcome to call. I'm a big believer in communication. I can always help you on the back end if I know in the front end of what's going on. Maybe it's school, maybe it's academics, and it's our job to know each kid. So if a kid is an upbeat energy guy every day, and all of a sudden he walks in and he's not, there's a red flag to me of like, okay, pull them aside, have a private conversation. Hey, what's up? What's wearing on you? You want to talk about? No big deal. You don't want to talk about? No fault there. But we just know. And what does a kid like to eat, not to eat? You got to figure out. It's not a how we can't. It's how we can. Do as much as you can with the resources you have, and then do more. Figure it out. Adapt and excel for us is the key.
You mentioned all the data and technology. How much has your role evolved over the last decade plus?
It's not even. It's bananas. With the Catapult, with the heart rate monitors, the FMS, the core of what we do, we're going to pull from the floor and clean a lot and squat a lot, and then we'll get into all the individual stuff. So most of these kids are used to it because they're Midwest kids, like my stop at Tulsa. They're used to it. Back there it was pretty hit and miss. I had some kids never touched a weight, which is mind-boggling, but it was true, right? So here it's been pretty easy, but technology-wise, we're big on with the Catapult. And the Catapult for me has always been, kind of one of my things has always been return to play or injury prevention. And I knock on wood, that comes down to, one, athletic training being great, our team doctors, surgeons being great, our coaches being great, equipment managers putting in the right stuff. Hopefully what we're doing is working and sticking, and ultimately it comes down to the kid buying into what we're doing and then doing at a high level what we're asking him to do to stay safe. They all came here to get a world-class education, play amazing football, but play on Saturdays, not spend time in the training room. So I'd like them to walk by Rhodey's office and go, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you today. Can I use the Normatec boots? But not be in there. So for us, with the Catapult, we try to build the player profile so everybody has a top-end speed. I'll use Bryce Hall as an example, the corner we had at Virginia, the second-year starter with the Jets. They all said he was slow. I'm like, this dude is not slow. I can pull up all the Catapult you want. He runs 22-3 in-game on grass in Scott Stadium against Miami. So that stuff not only helps us, but it helps them. So we build a player profile. So knock on wood, they don't get hurt. But if they do, then we go back and we know, okay, so we're working at 70% today. We can live track it with an iPad out on the field to know what 70% really is. Now, I can tell you this, from doing it as long as we've been doing it, just like coaches, you can pretty much know what it is, but man, is it nice to have that tool in your tool belt. If you need a flathead, it's sure nice to have a flathead, right? So those things become things. We've used sleep bands before from Fatigue Science that are just kind of unique little Fitbits, but they give really unbelievable data. Again, it's kind of your choice of how great you want to be. You've got to share that data with us. If you want to be great, they'll do it. If you don't, and you just want to kind of run down the middle of the road, that's my job to kind of give you we got to go here, you know what I mean? Because my thing is if you stay in the same place, you're going to get run over. So we're just trying to get better a little bit each day. And maybe that just is that 1% that people kind of talk about.
As you
are you bringing the break the rock technique, and you have to bring rocks with you?
It's funny that you asked that because my wife asked that. Do you think coach will let you do that? And I haven't had that conversation yet. Hopefully we do. It does become a really big thing. I think most people have probably seen it. It does become a big thing. It's a simple thing, man. It's a bunch of grains of sand pressed together just like we are as a group. But that symbolizes, moving. If you break all the rocks, then you're playing where you want to play in January and winning conference championships and all that. So it becomes a big deal. I've got kids now, because I've been doing it a long time, they're, hey, coach, I got this rock in my nightstand. I got this, but I never got rid of it. Those kind of things. So hopefully we do. My wife has kind of taken over the painting of the rocks. So that's why they look so much better, which is fantastic. So my kitchen is usually rocks and patio pavers and paint supplies all over, and she does an unbelievable job. So it's about buy-in from all of it, right?
What's the shirt?
That's my any challenge.
What's it say?
Any challenge.
Oh,
So just like my arms.
yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that.
So that's, I'm pretty simple. I wear the same black stuff every day. So my wardrobe is pretty easy. And if I ever wear something it's not, then the kids kind of freak out. Or my staff. If I come with a blue shirt on or something, they kind of freak out. But yeah, I am who I am, man. I'm here to work, and it's not about me. It's about these kids.
This might be a stretch, but you were talking about, Catapult and all the metrics and stuff like that. And kind of when it comes to like scouting or, play calling, analytics versus just feel, you know what I mean? It's kind of a thing with that. I mean, is there some kind of connection maybe to that when it comes to actual, like, you kind of trust your eyes sometimes more than the data, you know what I mean? Or is
It matches up pretty good. So my thing for the data is I'll never, there are programs out there that at both levels that kind of use the data and they're like, all right, your bank is done, right? You only have X amount of points in your bank, it's done. I don't ever do that. Practice is practice, and we need to practice. So for me, you're going to practice. Where I make the change in the evolution part of it is when they come into the weight room, right? We're at practice, we run practice, we're around these kids more than anybody in the building. So then it's that relationship part, like I talked about in the beginning. How do you feel today? I trust the kid to tell me, kind of like probably your old man, like my old man told me. I trust you until I catch you not being trustworthy, right? So I know, I can see it. And sometimes, say it's a P&10 day and they're running verticals all day long. Well, Rasheed might be tired, and maybe he can't catch all the cleans we're asking him to do that day. It's just, how do you look? Are my eyes telling me what the paper says? Is he telling me what the paper says? And we kind of go full circle with that. So that's kind of where we use that data for that. Now we have a template we use that we print out for the strength staff, and then we have one we use for our coaches to give them basic knowledge. But we have, like, we ding them. So over all of our time, we kind of know what a Tuesday practice should look like, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on, for each position group. And so if we ding them red a bunch of days in a row, it's kind of like I'm running my car with no oil. Not saying they're going to get hurt. It's just a higher risk, right? So we kind of like, hey, he's doing this and this and this. You might want to look at it and see. And most coaches are pretty observant about that, but it just depends on what a guy does. If he's a kick returner and a punt returner, and they're running in the 900 above for a catapult, that's a lot. And so we just got to make sure we monitor that with nutrition, all that kind of stuff.
A couple of the coaches who were here earlier before you talked about the recruiting process and projecting what guys will look like as they mature and grow into their frames.
Sure.
How much will you and your staff be involved in meeting a recruit and speculating how much room for growth a young player
Yeah,
has?
so when coach does his, the staff introduction and all that, I'm in there. I get to talk my piece. And then we all meet we all meet as a strength staff with the recruits. We'll go to lunch. We do all the same things they do. I like to watch the film. Just because it's a different lens, it's a different eye, right? And it's no different than me watching practice or a coach watching what we do. I like the feedback. Now, feedback can be hard sometimes, right? None of us all sometimes want the feedback because it's like, man, but you just got to take it, right? And that's how you get better is the feedback. Otherwise, we don't have all the answers. So I like to watch the film and just kind of see what the kid looks like and then try to evaluate some on the front end of how we do things. And then you project them by looking at them, but then you kind of get the, like I texted Ahmad Moses, we were texting back and forth, he wants a workout, and so we can kind of start to do that kind of stuff, but then it's like, you got to start building that relationship of what they're doing and what they've been doing, and then once they get here, our freshmen are all in one group, all the way from June, all the way until the end of the season, because their needs are different, right? I can throw him in there, he can be a freshman All-American, I've had millions of those, right? Because if you play, you're a freshman All-American, but let's just be honest. But their needs are different than a guy who's a Trey Siggers, who's a senior, or Rasheed, who's an older kid, as opposed to a young guy. So the needs are different. So we kind of keep those as our own little group. They're getting 5 strength coaches to 25 to 30 guys, they get way more of our attention, and then we can that's just how we separate our groups. And we slow cook our guys. Sometimes they get frustrated with me, but I'm not going to sacrifice running upstairs going, hey, he benched this, or hey, he cleaned that when it looks terrible. It's not fair to the kid. It's just not. Long term for me, like I tell every kid and every parent, there's a 10-year NFL plan is what I want for them. All right? And I start working on that the day they sign. And then it's our job to try to help them get to that thing. But how do you keep them for a 10-year plan? Your best ability is availability. Because every Tuesday, the NFL teams are rolling dudes through there to take your job, unless you're a first or second round pick. And then they might hang out with you for another 3 years. But today's day and age, it's a cash grab at the next level. There's not dynasties per se. You know what I mean? There's just not these teams that stick together for long term. So like I try to tell these guys, you're going to get coached by multiple people in your life. This is just another one of those deals.
FMS, functional movement systems.
Screen.
Screen.
Yeah, the Gray Cook stuff. It's actually pretty good. We just did, Coach Justice wanted to do it, so we put him through it yesterday just because he was curious about it. And you can just really, really help people. And I've been doing this, like, again, this is 26 years. Last January of 2020, my assistant, top assistant, Dwayne Chandler, and Nate Potocznik said, hey, we can do some better stuff. And I said, it's not time to do it. We're coming off the COVID year and all that. Show me. I said, you got 7 months to prove it. And they proved it, and I'll never go back. Because they had Mandy Alonso, Joey Blunt, and Olu Alatomimi, who finished third in the Remington. Those guys all just really, really took off from the programming of that kind of stuff. So it does work. My old eyes go like to the hip, like, man, he can't bend, but it ends up being down the ankle. And can they dorsiflex and bend? And then it unlocks a lot of power. So it's just an interesting, simple thing, but it works.